Dad wants to do a memorial for my sister at my wedding, but I'd rather she wasn't mentioned. I know the title sounds bad. I was hoping people might be able to assess this objectively and give suggestions, especially if they've been at weddings with memorials before. Unfortunately, for me, this is a trickier situation than I'd like because of who my sister was. I'm changing small details to make it harder to identify this situation if anyone I know happens across it. My younger sister passed away last year. She was an adult, but young, and it was sudden. I don't want to go into too much detail, but she made some bad choices that contributed to her short life. She was also not well mentally. She had an extremely tumultuous relationship with my mom and I, some ups but mostly very nasty downs, especially during years when we tried to save her from herself. On the other hand, my dad was often idealized by her and they had a better relationship. My fiancé did not have a good relationship with her either. Her final years and death were traumatic for our whole family. It's especially impacted my dad. Since she passed, my dad has made a point of eulogizing her at every family event we've had to remember her and make sure she was present. It's always been difficult for both my mom and I because I have a lot of intense, difficult emotions surrounding her and her passing. I always cry for hours and I end up feeling downhearted and out of sorts for days after each one of these surprise memorial events. My dad will be the officiant at our wedding. It's very soon. I only recently learned that he plans to memorialize her during the ceremony and in his toast. I really don't want him to do this, but he's extremely resistant because he doesn't want to pretend like she was never here. I will admit that it is childish for me to feel bitter about someone who is no longer here, but growing up, I had a lot of events hijacked by her causing some incident and now it feels like it's happening again even when she's passed. If we had a better relationship, I might have been more okay with taking a moment to remember her, but my dad tends to Leonize her and has a selective memory where he's forgotten everything bad. He was shocked when I said I wasn't comfortable with her being mentioned in a speech. Outside of my own baggage, my fiancé certainly doesn't want her mentioned. This is not just a my side of the family event like the previous memorials. I also fear it will bring down what's supposed to be a happy time and make the guests sad or uncomfortable. I want to try to compromise with him by having my mom. He and I wear yellow jewelry in discreet places to remember her. Yellow was her favorite color. But I'm not sure if he'd be okay with this because it's too secret. Long story short, how can I let my dad feel like we're honoring my sister's memory without upsetting my mom, my fiancé, and myself too much to enjoy the day? I'm at a loss and it's hard for me to approach this objectively. Edit. I need to go to bed so I won't be replying further, but I wanted to thank the people who offered condolences and advice, and also those who were rightfully saying, "Girl, what are you thinking?" when I said maybe I should just let him do it. I've gotten a lot of great ideas for other ways of remembering people, not just my sister, and ways to handle it if my dad tries anyway. I'm having a serious discussion with him tomorrow, and if I get any hint that he's going to ignore my fiancé and I's wishes, then we'll find another officiant. Wish I'd been smart enough to fully settle this issue months ago instead of days from the wedding, but lesson learned about clear communication there. Thanks again. Edit. My mother and I have both tried to talk about how we process grief differently, especially given how difficult our relationships with my sister were. That's part of why I wasn't expecting him to do this at this event, because he did it for my birthday and I had to talk about how hard that was. Unfortunately, I guess I didn't make the impression that I thought I did. I don't want to ask him to step down as the officiant because I think that would really hurt him and cause more problems than just letting this happen. I just hope I could find some compromise that allows him to feel like he's not forgetting about his other daughter without making me too depressed to be a good wife to my fiancé or hostess to my guests. It really messes with me when I think about her death too much. Edit. A moment of silence is a good idea. Especially if it's about all those who couldn't be here, not just my sister. I know my fiancé has relatives who passed, long time ago, but the sadness lingers. Who would have been wanted here? I can ask my man of honor, dude best friend, haha, to step in if things go off the rails, even if my dad is not an officiant and just doing a toast. He has a good relationship with my dad, so I trust him to do it sensitively. That's a really good idea too, thank you. Regarding what you said about whether he wants us to be in pain, God, I hope not. I don't think so. I think he's trying everything he can to make the pain stop, but nothing can. He does other rituals that are more personal, which I'm happy he does if it helps him. It's just this that can be really hard on us. The eulogies seem to help him with the guilt he feels about not being able to save her from herself, something we all deal with in different ways, about moving on, about everything. It's a really bad situation, for a little bit, but only for a little. I think it's also a I would like others to do this for me thing, which I get. Imagining people just celebrating and living life after you pass on it existentially terrifying, but it is something that happens to everyone.
Relevant comment. Pixitron 32. I'm so very sorry. This is a very complex grieving issue, and I'd highly recommend family group counseling to you all. Even 1 or 2 sessions could help your father understand that memorializing your sister at every event changes the mood drastically. It also, in a way, mars the specialness and joy of the new memories. There are other ways you can memorialize her. I'd recommend you, your mother, father, and any other siblings agree to something that is meaningful that you can incorporate at your wedding. My close friend had her father pass suddenly before her wedding, and she is memorializing him by small tributes such as colors in the wedding, photo of him on a seat at the front of the wedding ceremony, and later on at Be Receptive, a private family-only moment where they will all share a glass of his favorite drink and toast to his memory. I'd highly recommend you clearly navigate this with alternative memorializing options that are important. If your father cannot understand the significance of this wish you have and considers your own needs insignificant to his own, I would recommend removing him as officiant, selecting an alternative person, or hiring a professional. Some people in their grief feel that there is only one way or that their method of grieving is correct. Grief is complex, personalized, and unique to each person. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. Personally, if he has been memorializing her at every event since her passing, it would be surprising to me that you would expect he wouldn't do the same at your wedding. To him it seems he is incorporating a loved one that is important into the important events. However, he needs to understand and respect that, as another commenter suggested, though this may be how he memorializes your sister, it shouldn't be his prerogative to do carte blanche at every event. Especially when it causes your mother and you significant grief and prolonged emotions reactivity for several hours or days. He is being selfish in his grieving process, and inconsiderate of others' pain and how to make new memories without your sister due to his grief. Please, consider family grief counseling. Edited, for spelling and adding 1 sentence.
OP. First off, thanks for your thoughtful comment. I really appreciate you taking the time. Regarding I don't know why you'd expect this to be different, tell me about it. I thought it was understood that this was not the time, but I was not clear enough and I should have been more clear. Those other ideas sound like good things to suggest to him if he thinks the jewelry idea is too secretive. The private family event might be hard because she burned a lot of bridges with family members, so they may not be enthused, and the colors are already finalized, but maybe a photo somewhere would be enough. I'd need to clear it with my fiancé though. I don't want this to become a thing all about my family drama. I'd like to do some kind of counseling. My excuse, I'm aware it's an excuse, is that I'm working a job where finding extra time is difficult. Just in the lead up to the wedding I've been going to bed at 3 and waking up at 8 just to be sure I do everything I need to for work plus wedding planning. Admittedly, I fall into the trap where I think I just need to find a good time, but the time has, of course, not magically presented itself. My dad tried grief counseling briefly, but he quit after a few sessions and refuses to try again. He thought it was too impersonal. My mom and I, but especially my mom, have become his therapists instead, which is not awesome for us for the reasons you could imagine. I think convincing himself to do family counseling would be difficult. If nothing else, this is a good reminder that I need to more seriously pursue counseling for myself, even if he doesn't want to try.
Pixitron 32. Oh my gosh, you should not be acting as his therapist. This is really, really important. I beg you to see a grievance counselor for yourself and your family. You all are not processing the sudden death at a young age of your sister well at all. You and your mother are enabling your father's grief. You all need grievance counseling stat. At this point, despite it being several years since her passing, it will mar your wedding because there is so much unprocessed emotion, trauma, and grief to be dealt with. The best thing you can do for your fiancé's your marriage, to avoid drama, as much as possible about this issue at least, to protect the happiness of your wedding day, is to involve a professional ASAP. It sounds like your family may be enmeshed, and I'd recommend looking into if that is something that resonates with you. Patrick Teagan is a great therapist with some wonderful material on YouTube that could help shed some light on it. You deserve happiness and joy without tears of loss on your wedding day. You deserve to forget, as much as you can on such a day, and be the focus of love, support, and joy by your family, your fiancé's family, friends, and loved ones. Please be kind to yourself and try and sleep more, my friend. You need it. You may be using business and work as a means to distract and cope. And of course, take everything I am saying with a grain of salt. I am just a stranger on Reddit whose heart is aching for you and your family. Big hugs, if you want them. Edit. Your mom being his therapist is not fair/effective either. She has her own grief to deal with.
Update. I received a number of requests for an update to this, so here we are. It's a good update, thankfully. I spoke with my dad the morning after making the post. I tried to emphasize that mentioning my sister's passing in detail at the wedding would be very difficult emotionally for my mother and I, would take away from my fiancé's, now husband's, day and would probably make the guests uncomfortable or saddened. He said he was resistant at first because he's been so afraid of my sister's memory fading away, but that ultimately he understood my concerns. He still wanted her present in some way that wouldn't take away from our day. I offered suggestions that people gave for ways to have her memory present. We decided to have a seat reserved for past loved ones at the ceremony and an empty seat with a name tag for her at the wedding party's table during the reception dinner. My dad was the officiant as originally planned, and he gave a beautiful speech at the ceremony and a heartfelt toast that was focused on the joy of the day instead of the sadness of the past. As far as I'm aware, everyone at the wedding had a wonderful time and the only tears shed were happy ones. I know that there were multiple commenters who said my dad should be replaced as the officiant no matter what, but I'm glad I didn't do that after the wedding was over. He gave me a big hug, crying because it meant so much to him that we trusted him to do the ceremony and how happy it made him to be such a big part of the wedding. It meant a lot to my husband and I, too. Moral of the story: sometimes it takes a few tries to get it right, but honest and heartfelt communication between everyone involved won the day here. Thanks again to everyone who left advice, comfort, well wishes, and grandma hugs. Smiley face. I did not at all anticipate the interest in my post, but I'm grateful for everyone's comments even if I ran out of time to reply to everyone. In the end, it was a perfect wedding and I couldn't be happier with how it turned out.